What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao, bringing you the news from here in Taipei. Taiwan's economy minister has moved to reassure the public that war in the Middle East won't heavily impact the economy here, despite the country's reliance on energy imports. Chris Gorin has more.
Will war in the Middle East affect Taiwan's economy? That question was put to the country's economy minister, J.W. Guo, in the legislature today after weeks of conflict between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. Guo indicated that the impact would be minimal despite the country's heavy reliance on foreign energy.
我国能源主要来自进口，113年能源进口率高达95.77%。国际能源价格受地缘政治的影响，我国就采取进口来源多元化，以长约为主的采购模式，同时兼顾反映成本、照顾民生、稳定物价的前提下，合理调整国内能源价格。
In Taiwan, oil and gas are needed for both fuel and electricity, and about 80% of its electricity comes from burning fossil fuels. About 77% of its oil and 28% of its natural gas comes from the Middle East, making the country vulnerable to disruptions in the region. Energy security has long been a concern for Taiwan, especially with the potential of a blockade by China, which has consistently threatened to take Taiwan by force. And energy is one of the most controversial topics in Taiwanese politics, especially after the country shut down its nuclear reactors while also aiming for net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Now, the government says it set up a special task force to manage the risks of a potential Middle East conflict and says that even large swings in oil prices and exchange rates will have only minimal impact. But as the prospects of both a global trade war and a real war loom, they may need to keep sending reassurances, with many people still being on edge here. John Su and Chris Gorin in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
A delicate ceasefire between Israel and Iran appears to be holding after nearly 2 weeks of fighting. But there are signs on both sides that this may not be the end of the conflict. John Van Trieste reports.
On the beach near Tel Aviv, there are few signs of the fierce fighting between Israel and Iran that's just been paused. The wail of sirens and the roar of incoming missiles are gone now. There's just the chirping of birds. And on the shorefront promenade, crowds of people who've spent days in bomb shelters are out strolling and jogging in the seaside air. A similar calm has returned to Tehran. Patriotic slogans are still up and armed guards are still visible, but after a false start, a ceasefire has taken hold and the streets are filled with life. In both Israel and Iran, there is cautious optimism.
It's a bit scary to go around in the beach and in places that there's no shelter, but we hope that the ceasefires will maintain.
I agree. The reason is that I haven't slept properly for 12 nights, and today, after 12 days, I finally came outside, heard about the ceasefire, and decided to go for a walk and such. And honestly, if there's peace, why would I be against it?
Will peace hold, though, especially in the long term? Israel, with U.S. help, has dealt a blow to Iran's nuclear program, its main objective in this fighting. But even Israel and the U.S. seem to have different ideas about how big a blow.
On June 21st, a U.S. precision operation effectively fulfilled our narrow objective to degrade Iran's capacity to produce a nuclear weapon.
Well, I think it's still early to assess all the strikes. We know we were able to push back the program. We were able to remove the imminent threat that we had.
CNN reports Israeli and U.S. strikes may only really have put the program back a few months, missing core assets. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu says his country won't hesitate to strike again.
ואכן, בכל הפעולות המזהירות שלוחמינו ביצעו, הורדנו לטמיון את פרויקט הגרעין של איראן. ואם מישהו באיראן ינסה לשקם את הפרויקט הזה, נפעל באותה נחישות, באותה עוצמה, לגדוע כל ניסיון כזה.
the streets of Tehran, some at this anti-Israel, anti-US rally say this conflict isn't over.
We don't accept the imposed ceasefire or imposed peace. This ceasefire will result in the enemy getting stronger. We don't approve of the ceasefire at all. We will continue fighting until we are either martyred or win. God willing, Iran will eventually own a nuclear bomb.
With mutual suspicion and intense emotions lingering, end to the back-and-forth strikes of the past 2 weeks is far from guaranteed. Dolphine Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he hopes to seal a deal with Russia as he and other leaders gather in The Hague for a NATO summit.
And if there's language in the final summit declaration about aggression by Russia, would you be okay with that kind of language?
Well, I'll have to take a look at it, but, I'd like to see a deal with Russia.
Trump is expected to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the summit. Ukraine is not a NATO member, but it stepped up its push to join the alliance after Russia's invasion in 2022. The Trump administration opposes Ukraine's membership in NATO and has not pledged public support for the war-torn country since Trump took office. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy says more British ships will sail in the South China Sea and Taiwan Strait.
It was proper and lawful to send HMS Spey through the Taiwan Strait in pursuit of vital international freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, wasn't it? And can we see more like it?
Yes, yes.
Lammy addressed Parliament on Tuesday, just days after the HMS Spey sailed through the Taiwan Strait, the first British patrol there in 4 years. It comes as the UK releases its national security strategy for 2025, which warns of rising tensions around Taiwan. The plan opposes the use of force to change the status quo and calls for cross-strait dialogue. Japan has carried out land-based anti-ship missile tests on its territory for the first time, part of growing efforts to deter China. Around 300 troops participated in the tests on the island of Hokkaido, targeting an uncrewed boat off its southern coast. Japan says the training was necessary due to the current extreme security environment. It comes after the country spotted 2 Chinese aircraft carriers operating together in the Pacific earlier this month. Japan considers China its greatest strategic challenge. President Lai Ching-te has addressed the nation in his second of 10 so-called unity speeches. He talked up the need to make Taiwan more resilient in the face of Chinese aggression. But one metaphor he used has sparked angry reactions among the opposition. Irene Lin reports.
Giving
a warm greeting in the local Hakka dialect, President Lai Ching-te addresses the nation from Taoyuan in the second of 10 planned speeches. The theme, unity. Lai saying Taiwan has repeatedly come together to find success, from COVID-19 control to the world-leading semiconductor industry. And most importantly, there is turbulent democratization. Lai also continued a theme from his first speech, that people should embrace both the country's official name, the Republic of China, and its common name, Taiwan. But it was another line that drew all the headlines.
要透过一次又一次的选举罢免，一张又一张的选票，像打铁铸剑一般，一锤又一锤，千锤百炼，百炼成钢，打掉杂质，淬炼出捍卫主权、守护民主钢铁般的意志。
The iron-striking metaphor, specifically the term impurities, seemingly linked to upcoming mass recall votes against politicians from the opposition Kuomintang or KMT and Taiwan People's Party or TPP, who together control Taiwan's legislature. On Tuesday, the KMT called out what it sees as hypocrisy from Lai and the party he leads, the Democratic Progressive Party or DPP.
除了赖游泳之外，除了新潮流护身符之外。 除了清德牌的绿水器之外，台湾的其他人民通通是杂质。
The presidential office has responded to the mounting criticism, saying the metaphor has been used publicly before, and Lai was trying to emphasize uniting Taiwan against an external threat. With 8 more unity talks left to give, Lai will be hoping the focus can return to bringing the country together. Ryan Wu and Anring Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has presented a medal to a Guatemalan military leader in recognition of his contributions to the two countries' mutual defense. Lieutenant General Ermelindo Cho-So, Chief of the General Staff of Guatemala, was presented with the second-class Order of the Resplendent Banner. In his remarks, he called Taiwan his second home and said key moments of his personal life took place here. Taiwan's ambassador to Guatemala praised Cho-So for deepening ties through military exchanges, including in the medical field. Guatemala is one of Taiwan's 12 remaining diplomatic allies. Visitors to a Taipei art museum are invited to embark on an unpredictable journey to understand their relationship with nature through the works of an Icelandic-Danish artist. Our reporter Sandy Chi has the story.
Walking through a curtain of mist, with bands of colorful light shimmering around. This is one of the works featured in the exhibition, Your Curious Journey, by Icelandic-Danish artist Olafur Eliasson, who is exhibiting in Asia for the first time, with Taipei being his third stop on the tour. His installations invite visitors on an unpredictable journey of instability.
Because art is an opportunity to question yourself, question your view, question your journey, question the traditional way of doing things and open up for new ways of doing things. Art is unstable, right? Art is a surprise.
Eliasson is known for unconventional works that blur the lines between art, nature, and science. He harnesses natural elements like light, fog, and water to evoke emotional responses from viewers, hoping to help people rethink their relationship with nature. Among his artworks on display in Taipei, his sun drawing and wind writing series, created in the desert in 2023.
This is the wind machine, so this is very windy. And you can see over here, this is the black and the white. This is the desert speaking, the sun and the wind and everything speaking to us.
However, after decades of working with these natural materials, Eliasson says there's one in particular he favors.
I think my favorite material is maybe time. The time it takes for you to look at something, the journey.
This material is strongly reflected in the Glacier Melt series, which the artist worked on in 1999 and 2019 in Iceland. Many visitors were impressed with Eliasson's works on the first day of the exhibition.
有一件是在喷水的那个装置，就我觉得远远看它在，因为它就是在一个完全黑暗的空间里面，然后它用灯光的控制去让那个水流好像有一个暂留的作用，所以它在灯光下的时候会感觉有点像一件静止的雕塑，可是你又同时可以听到水流的声音，所以可以感受到那种就是一个能量在那个空间里面吧。
Some who have already seen the artist's exhibits before have come again.
他的作品有一个很特别的地方，是他跟空间当下还有你观者本人的身体都有关系。所以当他的作品移到不同的空间，以及来到台湾的时候，其实他被观看的方式应该也是不一样的。所以虽然我在伦敦已经看过这个展览了，但是我知道他来台湾之后，我还是很期待他能在北美馆有怎样的呈现。所以这是我会想要来看的原因。
Eliasson's work will be on display at the museum through the end of September, before moving on to its next stop in Indonesia. While it's here, Eliasson hopes Taipei visitors can stay curious and travel with him on this unpredictable journey. Andy Xue, Simonetta Ho, and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
And thanks for watching What's Up Taiwan. For more of our stories, follow us on social media to get updates in your feed. Finally, check out this performance at one of the world's most iconic theaters in Athens before it closes for restoration. I'm Eric Gao, and I'll see you later on TaiwanPlus News.